Good day, Yohanan.
Hello, Dan.
It's good to see you once more.
Likewise.
And we're gathered again for another podcast episode of the Tzur Institute for Biblical Research, together with CJFM. Today, we are carrying on biblical motifs, especially in the book of Isaiah. And we've been discussing two motifs. One was the arm of the Lord, the other the servant of the Lord. And we've covered both. Now we're coming to this surprise. Is today the day of convergence?
I think so. We were left with a cliffhanger last time of the arm of the Lord being, the Lord bearing his arm, bringing salvation. And we're waiting to see how his arm is going to do that. The first thing that we notice, though, is at the end of that chapter, which is chapter 52, the prophet turns back to the servant.
We left off in chapter 52, verse 12. And now I can carry on from verse 13. It reads, "Behold, my servant shall deal prudently. He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. Just as many were astonished at you, so his visage was marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. So shall he sprinkle many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths at him. For what had not been told them they shall see, and what they had not heard they shall consider. Who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed?"
So if we just go back firstly to the servant, the verses that you read, it's very interesting because, again, clearly the servant, and in verse 14, clearly people are aghast at him. And it says he was so inhumanly disfigured.
On the one hand. Yet he shall be exalted and extolled and very high.
And that is very significant because there's three Hebrew words there that are used to describe his, we can't really say anything else but glory, right?
Yes, those are interesting words because anyone who opens the book of Isaiah immediately in chapter 2 runs into those words again and again and again and again. Only in chapter 2, they're mentioned in a very negative way. Everything that is high, everything that exalts itself will be humiliated and humbled. All the tall mountains, all the tall hills, all the proud men, they will all be humbled. And only God shall be exalted. Only God shall be extolled. Only he will remain high. And then in the rest of the book, those two or three adjectives often, I'd say solely describe God alone.
Whenever they're in a positive.
Whenever it's a positive use of those terms, it is only God.
Mm-hmm.
And yet here we have God's servants. Is it Israel? Is it the one who is much like Israel? Is it Cyrus, who is going to be highly exalted, extolled?
So this is the first surprise, right? Mm-hmm. The first surprise concerns the servant being now described, and we know he's clearly a vessel, a human vessel, but now he's been described in a way that in the rest of the book only belongs to the Lord.
Interesting. We've agreed that the servant of the Lord is always his human vessel.
But then this runs straight into the last verse you read, which was the first verse of chapter 53, right?
Who has believed our reports, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed?
This is just amazing because we're waiting like from verse 10 of chapter 52, where the arm of the Lord bears his arm to bring salvation. So now we're waiting for what is the arm of the Lord going to do? The prophet has prayed in chapter 51, wake up, O arm of the Lord, like the days of old, that you brought us through the seas and you dried up the waters and brought the people out. And when you do that again, then the redeemed of the Lord will return. And we're waiting for this amazing act. And what do we get? Who has believed that this is the arm of the Lord? And then what do we get? A description, not of the waters being opened, not of the sea being dried up, but of someone where it says he grew up like a sapling before him, like a root in arid ground. He had no form or charm to attract us, no beauty to win our hearts. He was despised, the lowest of men. This is a total surprise.
And sort of an anticlimax as well.
It seems like an anticlimax, but I think that question is just so poignant and powerful. Who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? It's almost as if the prophet himself is like asking himself the question, can what the Spirit of God is revealing to me be? That now I've been talking about the servant of the Lord, the vessel, the human vessel, and the arm of the Lord, just like in the Exodus, coming out, bringing us out of Egypt. But now the Lord is revealing that there is a person, a character, who he now describes as the servant, but then who can believe that this is the arm of the Lord as well? So here is this convergence of the motifs in a way that is so surprising and so powerful, because it says clearly, especially after Isaiah has clearly established that the motif of the arm of the Lord is divine. And the motif of servant of the Lord is some human vessel
of God.
And yet now he's bringing them together, the divine and the human.
So when the arm of the Lord is revealed, it turns out to be a man of sorrows.
This is amazing.
A man of sorrows who does not encompass great strength. At least he doesn't appear to be. He doesn't bring with him the wondrous and miraculous tearing apart of seas and drowning of armies. If you wish, he isn't a superhero's muscular arm that you'd imagine the arm of the Lord when it's being revealed. Instead, he is like a tender plant.
And not only that, if we read on, it says, yet ours were the suffering he was bearing. Ours the sorrow he was carrying. While we thought of him as someone being punished. Now, the prophet is speaking as one of the people of Israel.
Yeah.
And as one of the people of Israel, he says, well, we thought of him as someone being punished and struck with the affliction by God, whereas he was being wounded by our rebellions. He was crushed because of our guilt. The punishment reconciling us fell on him, and we have been healed by his bruises. We all have gone astray like sheep, each one to his own way, but the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. So the arm of the Lord, this is the arm of the Lord. No surprise, the question at the beginning of the chapter. Can this be the arm of the Lord that we've been waiting for? This is amazing in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew scriptures, that this is here.
The whole chapter stands as a marvel. It's been a marvel for millennia. When I think of fellow countrymen here in Israel who read this, they often think they're not reading the Hebrew scriptures at all. They might be reading something from Christian literature. This is very clearly a reference to a suffering servant.
Exactly.
And the suffering servant with a capital T and a capital S.
And he's mentioned even in the chapter itself as the servant, even as the question at the beginning identifies him as the arm of the Lord. In verse 11, it says, after the ordeal he has endured, he will see the light and be content. By his knowledge, the upright one, my servant, will justify many by taking their guilt on himself.
Yes.
Here's the amazing thing, that this is the last time in the book of Isaiah that servant appears in the singular.
Interesting. My servant. This is the last appearance of a single servant.
Of a single servant. From here on, it's my servants. And it seems to really imply that, and this is what the verse says here, that he, my servant, will justify many by taking their guilt on himself, and he will see the fruit of what he's done. From here on, whenever servant is mentioned, it's in the plural.
Right. And I can tell from chapters 54 through the end to 66, servants include both the faithful amongst Israel, but also those of the nations whom God calls to himself.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Those are themes you find elsewhere in other books, other prophets. I'm thinking of Zechariah and elsewhere. But these last verses of the chapter, and he was numbered with the transgressors. This is my servant. And he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors.
I think this is just amazing. And we can close with this again. We've looked at the arm of the Lord and seen clearly in the Exodus story, in the book of Isaiah, it is the Lord himself. It is an expression of his power. And we've looked at the servant of the Lord, clearly a human vessel. We've seen it identified, the servant being identified with Israel, but also being someone who will save Israel. And here, those two motifs are brought together in the description of one person who suffers.
The human God or the divine human, whichever way you put it, someone very special was described here. Yohanan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
This was a great episode. Lovely to record with you.
And likewise.
All right, I'm looking forward for the last one.
Okay.
Until next time.